The first one is, what are the Apple Podcast charts? The second is, how do you get on them? And third is, what happens after that? And does your show blow up? Do you see a little bit of growth? Does it not really mean anything? My aim is to answer all of that and share this info with you. So this episode is all about the Apple Podcast charts and what happens when you get on those charts, baby. Let's give it a go. Okay, guys, so what are the Apple Podcast charts? Well, they're the top ranking shows across all the different podcast categories on Apple. And to find the Apple Podcast charts, you can do this from your phone or on a desktop. You're going to go to Apple Podcasts. You're going to click Top Charts over here. And then you're going to go to all categories over here on the right. You're going to scroll down. You're going to pick a category. Let's pick education, because that is the category that I ranked for a couple weeks ago. I'm now out of the rankings, but at one point we hit number 29 out of the top 200 in education. And then for about 2 weeks, we hovered into the 30s, or maybe it was like a week. I don't fully remember. And then slowly started to drop out. Got like 40, 50, 100, 150, 180. At one point, we were 199. And then we got fully kicked off the charts. But in any case, okay, so you can see here, if you're watching this, sick. If not, guys, if you're listening, just follow my lead. I just clicked on the top charts for education. So you can go top shows over here on the right. You click see all. It'll also show you top episodes, as you can see down below, but let's see all. So you can see here, I'm scrolling the Ed Milet show, the Him and Her podcast. That's the Skinny Confidential, Dear Media. Couple different like language shows, like how to learn different languages. Jordan Harbinger, Tom, I think it's pronounced Bailu, Tony Robbins, Dennis Prager, Jim Quick. I was kind of outranking a lot of these top guys at one point when the show started to go viral. That's what the charts look like. That's education. You could go to business, education and business, both like hard categories. Those are very competitive. Et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's what the Apple Podcast charts are. Now, how do you get on the Apple Podcast charts? Well, Apple hasn't released all that information, and it's my understanding that they do have an internal team that also like reviews the charts constantly and are working in that department. But one thing that is known across the industry is like the Apple Podcast charts, how you climb those charts is the rate at which your show is getting new followers. And so if your show starts to go viral or an episode starts to go viral, people looking at the charts are going to see that. The more people see it, the more people are going to click on it. The more people that click on it, a handful of those are going to follow your show and actually become fans and start listening. And so the rate at which you get new followers determines partly how fast or if at all, that you're going to start climbing the charts for your specific category. And then if it's like massive growth, maybe you'll end up on the top overall of all categories combined. But that's like the main thing that I know, and that's like talked about in the industry, is like you can get on the charts depending on how fast your show is gaining followers. And so why do you want to be on the charts? Well, I'm going to show you right now the opportunities I personally got. And I imagine if you are on the charts at some point, you've gotten similar kind of like growth for your show. And so I'm going to show that right now. I'm going to click over to Libsyn, which is right fucking here. Okay. So first I'm going to show you like the downloads that I got and kind of what that meant. Then I'm going to go over to the back end, which is Apple Podcast Connect, and show you like the back end of Apple and what this all meant. All right. So let me refresh this. So there we go. We're loading. So as you can see here, if you're looking at this on YouTube, massive growth, towards the end of July and even still into August. As we record this, it's August 12th, I think. You can see here in this middle graphic, this massive arc up and then this massive arc down. That's when the popularity was growing and then when it dropped. You can see here in a bar chart form, this right here, this episode with Mike Whiston, CEO of Mopod, that's the episode that pumped first 7-day downloads, 2,490. You could see like the first 7-day downloads of like these two episodes before. So this episode, Stop Stressing Over Your Brand Identity, 21 downloads. Terrible. Then the next one, grow your podcast audience with Spotify comments, 66 downloads in the first 7 days. Total for this thus far, 81. But here's like the good chart to look at. So you could see here the first 7 days of that episode that went viral, that put me on the charts, 2,490 downloads. You could see the first 7 days for all these episodes before in the 60s and 70s. This 21, I don't know what the hell that is. That seemed like an error to me, but oh, you know what that is? Anyway, we don't need to get into that. I know what that is though. Okay. And then you could see like the first 30 days, there's usually some tiny growth on these older episodes after the first 7-day period. But then you get up to here. Total so far, this episode with Mike Whiston, CEO of Mopod, 7,599 downloads. That was released on July 24th, so not even a month old as of recording this. Still growing, not nearly at the rate it was. Then the week after, kind of back to reality, sort of. This is a part 2. So that Mike Whiston, CEO of Mopod episode, I split into a part 1 and part 2 because it was a long interview. So then it dropped down to 539 for the first 7 days. And currently, that's 2 weeks old. It grew a little bit to 565. But what's cool is that, okay, so that's when like all this growth and the charting was over. But I clearly gained a lot of followers because this episode here, the podcast host, Colin Gray, that the guest was Colin Gray. He's the founder of the podcast host. That was released less than a week ago as I record this, and that got 326 downloads. And so let's forget about these massive numbers here for these 2 Mike Whiston episodes, but let's compare these 326 to these shows that are a couple months old that, you know, getting 60, 70 or 80 downloads, massive increase from that. So if this 326, if that's like the new baseline moving forward, I am fucking pumped. And then you can see like the daily downloads here. So here's where that big run up was. So daily downloads, 20. And let's go back even further. So, okay, all through like early July and even probably June. Daily downloads, you can see 5, 7, 18, 16, 9, very, very low. Then it cranks up 500. 1,000 that day. August 1st, 1172, peaking at 1281. Then we drop down to 51, 40, 191. That's on August 7th. That's a Wednesday when episodes are released. That's why that jump is there. But dude, even like today, look, 32, August 12th. Yesterday is a Sunday, 14. Okay, I'll take it. Saturday, August 10th, 29. So even after all this excitement and booming here, that dropped off, but like we're in pretty good shape. And to show how this correlates to Apple followers, I logged into the backend, Apple Podcast Connect. If you didn't know, go to your Apple Podcast Connect account and start looking at the back end of your podcast within Apple. All you got to do is enter your Apple. You guys know how to do this. If you don't, go to podcastconnect.apple.com, enter the Apple ID that you submitted your show to Apple with when you first launched, and this will come up and you can get into all your Apple specific analytics here. Okay, so check this out. Let's go back. Let's even go back to May. Don't worry about these 2 other shows here. Let's focus on Clipped followers. As in, this is May. You could see up in the top right corner here, followers 85 in May. Listeners 12, engaged listeners 7, plays 80. Okay, then we're going to go to June. I gained a follower, but very unimpressive numbers. Then we go to July. Boom, that's when the virality hit. It was very end of July. Followers, so a 281% increase from June, and that came out to 328 followers. And look at these numbers. Listeners, 73, up 630%. Engaged listeners, up 78%. And plays, up 202%. Let me just go back to June real quick. And you can see There's even some negatives, -17, -31. So not great. And then that was July. And then August, boom, followers, 465 followers, which is rad. So then I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on this. This is August. This is this month. So you can see here, 400. Let me reset this to presets. I'm going to go 60 days. Okay, so these are the followers. These are people that are quote unquote, they used to be called subscribed, but they follow your show. And so when you release a new episode, if someone follows your show, it'll get automatically downloaded to their phone. So, dude, you could see this. Let's go back. Yeah, and then this big, massive increase here. So the main thing that look at these numbers, dude. Gained 12,375%. Did lose some, but I'm just pumped. The charts are cool because it's like a brag. I guess it's like a humble brag. Like, I made the charts. That might be good for trying to get sponsors. You can I took some screenshots in the event that like I need to show somebody that like the show has been on the charts. The show's growing. It's somewhat popular. It's very niche specific, but these are my numbers. These are my followers. This is where I charted at my height, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just stoked that, aside from the chart itself, that I did get all those followers, because that's going to just improve downloads over time and more people. It was like social proof that I hit the charts and then people followed the show and they must have liked it, because after that big drop off in downloads, we still have 326 downloads, which I never ever got before, for an episode that's less than a week old. So, which was last week's episode. As I drop this in 2 days, we'll see if I'm getting 300, high twos, low threes, high threes in the first 7 days. 200, the high 200s, low 300s, whatever, high 300s, 400s, whatever it is. It's a big increase, massive increase. So all that to say, if you discovered this show because of that, that's awesome. Thank you so much for checking it out. I hope I can deliver on all stuff content creation related. I've expanded a little bit. I'm going to be doing more SEO stuff because I love SEO and I love writing. And I think writing is an important component to podcasting, although it's completely different. It's not podcasting at all. I try to promote that, like, the more written content that you can pump out related to an episode or related to your brand, it's just going to help people discover you in a different way. It's going to help your website rank. And if your show has a page on your website, going to get more people to see your podcast. But again, just want to say thank you. If you've got topics that you want me to cover, or you just want to give a shout out and chat, if you just have questions about podcasting, go ahead and email me, info@thepodcasthaven.com. That's info@thepodcasthaven, all one word.com. Would love to communicate with you guys, interact, answer questions, offer help. I want to help you strategize and grow with your content, with your podcast, with your YouTube. That's my overall like goal and point of this, is just to put out information myself and also talk to like rad people that have been crushing it in the podcast world, that are service providers or podcasters of their own, that share their own tips and strategies of how like they made it or what's currently working for them or what to avoid. So stoked that you guys are here, and stoked to keep creating content for you guys. So that's it for me today, guys. Keep listening, keep engaging, keep creating. I'm out.